He's dead. Infected.
You wanna play a motherfucking zombie game?
I'll be honest here, I did want to pick up this game on PlayStation 5, but by the time I was able to afford the game, no store in close proximity to me had the game available for PlayStation, so I ended up with the Switch 2 version of the game, and I gotta be honest, I was quite surprised at its performance and visual presentation. Now, I haven't been a lifelong fan of the franchise, as Resident Evil 7 was the first game that I actually sat down and played, which is the game that brought me into the franchise officially. And I do have my love-hate relationship with Resident Evil Village, which did come with a very horrific nightmare that felt too real one night and left me sleeping the rest of the night with all the lights on. I am not joking, this actually happened to me. As a fan of survival horror games, I was excited to sit down and play this game to experience some new horrific scenes and enemies that will possibly give me new nightmares. Now, yes, I did enjoy my time with this new entry in the franchise, as there was a lot of new story and connections to the original story, as well as various puzzles and a plethora of new enemy types. Now, that helped to keep the game feeling a bit fresh the more that you dive into it. However, I am not sure if this will be considered the scariest game in the franchise, as I was expecting a bit more horror than what I received here, but that doesn't mean the game is bad or horrible in any way. Maybe I'm finally growing a bit of a backbone. Now, yes, there are a few scary moments, like a monster or zombie will come out of nowhere and grab you when you least expect it, or when you have to go through those stalker sections as Grace, but nothing as terrifying as what I experienced back in Resident Evil 7 and some of the parts from Resident Evil Village, as well as Resident Evil 2 Remake. Now, if I am being honest, Resident Evil 2 Remake was probably the scariest game in the franchise that I have personally played, but that's just my opinion. Now, I did decide to go with the third-person camera angle for both Leon and Grace, as I am not a big fan of the first-person camera perspective. Now, I do have my love-hate relationship with Leon, as Resident Evil 4 is one of my least favorite games in the franchise, and just one of my least favorite games ever. And yes, I know I am in the minority with that opinion, but I did love Resident Evil 2 Remake, and I also purchased the original Resident Evil 2, so I am planning to make my way through that game as well, and maybe do a classic review for that game, as well as Part 3 original. Now, Leon did have some really cool levels and action moments in the game that make you feel like a zombie hunting John Wick, and I was surprised, as some of the takedowns that you can perform, you have so much gore and blood and dismemberment that makes the moments even more exciting. And you also do have your hatchet, which you can constantly sharpen so you can deal more effective damage. And this is what you're going to use to even decapitate a zombie's head entirely, which is really awesome. And I wish you can do that whenever you want to avoid those blister heads from popping up. But just seeing it in action is amazing. And sometimes you can pick up a zombie's weapon and throw it at another zombie, which adds to even more excitement and fun in those moments. Now, Grace was a very interesting addition to the franchise, and I thoroughly enjoyed her performance by her actor. As you can tell throughout various moments in the game, just how afraid she is and the fear that she is experiencing. And it becomes a lot more noticeable when she's having some dialogue and you can see her talking to other characters, and she's stuttering and trembling. Even with combat, she has a lot less stability with handling her firearms, making aiming a bit more difficult at certain times when you're playing as Grace. Now, I do think that maybe there was a bit too much stuttering in the dialogue with Grace, especially towards the end of the game. You would think by now she would have a bit more of a handle on it, but I guess it just shows her inexperience level as a FBI agent at the young age that she is, and just how afraid that she is in this game.
What does Victor want with you?
What?
Grace.
What do you
He
mean?
grabbed you for a reason.
Wait, you're DSO. That's the counter bioterrorism agency, right?
Take this.
You're sure?
You might need it. Now go. Get out of here.
Hey, that's a restricted area. You can't go in there.
Why?
It's an active crime scene.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Oh, you're FBI?
I am.
Investigating all these strange deaths, huh? Mm-hmm. It's the 5th one now, right? I heard they all have the same weird bruises. So you think it's something infectious, or terrorism, or... Why else would the FBI be investigating, right? Hey, are you with me?
Oh, there might be answers inside.
Now, when it comes to the Switch 2 version of the game, the performance while docked was an almost perfect 60 frames per second, as I barely noticed any slowdowns or any dips in the frame rate. And visually, while I'm sure it won't compete side by side with PS5 perfectly, it still looks very, very impressive, whether you're playing docked or handheld. Now, handheld is where I noticed a few performance issues, just a bit of a frame rate drop, especially when there's multiple enemies on screen, but nothing that will break the game or crash the game, causing you to restart. So it still is pretty impressive for this handheld console. Now, when it comes to the story, there is a lot of connection from this game to previous games, more specifically Resident Evil 2, as even with the marketing, there was this whole return to Raccoon City selling point, which unfortunately was a bit of a smaller portion of the game, and I was hoping to get a bit more with the return to Raccoon City, but I felt like a majority of my time in Raccoon City was just a lot of filler. It was me constantly backtracking just to complete a series of objectives that all connect into this one larger objective for me to actually proceed to the next part of Raccoon City. And I just felt like that really overstayed its welcome and took away from the excitement of returning to Raccoon City. Now, it does kind of make up for it by introducing some classic enemies that I won't spoil here, but if you're a fan of the original Resident Evil 2 or the remake of Resident Evil 2, you're gonna enjoy those classic callbacks when you go to those portions of the game. Now, of course, with any survival horror game, and more specifically Resident Evil, you gotta have some good sound quality to add to the fear and the intense moments that will make the hairs on the back of your neck stick up. Gladly, I can say that the audio design is amazing. As with other previous Resident Evil games, you're gonna hear all the various noises and sounds, especially if you're wearing headphones, which will add more to the intense moments and give you a bit more of that fear that you want to experience. The game is a little bit of light on features and bonus content, as there is a series of challenges you can complete that will earn you some credits that you can use to unlock alternate costumes and eventually infinite ammo weapons and other weapons. But I was hoping for other modes to be included, like previous Resident Evil games, like a survival horde mode or the challenging side content like RE2 Remake, where you played as the different survivors or different characters from Raccoon City who are trying to escape. And those were the more difficult levels, but this game is missing content like that for now. Capcom did announce that they will be adding some post-content DLC as well as a photo mode, which might bring me back in completely for my second playthrough, as I love photo mode. I'm a sucker of photo mode. And hopefully, in addition to story DLC, we do get some of those other, various survival DLCs, maybe other characters to play as, or maybe they'll finally port Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake to the Switch 2 without it being a cloud version. I would really love to see that. Now, if you're a fan of survival horror games and even zombie games,
Wanna play a motherfucking zombie game?
I tremendously recommend picking this game up. And if you only have the Nintendo Switch 2 as your console, you're not going to be disappointed with this port, as it does run amazingly well. Plus, there was recently an update to help with the performance, so there's something as well. It does look great. It sounds amazing. There's a really deep and engaging story, and depending on your skill level, you're going to get about 10 to 15 hours of campaign. It took me about 15 hours to complete it. I know that there's players who are speed running the game, and there is a certain challenge to beat it under 4 hours. So it is possible. But like I said, I got about 15 hours out of the game. I got almost every item that I could find. I missed maybe a couple, but I am currently on my second run, and I do want to unlock the other weapons and infinite ammo rocket launcher, as pretty much every game has. So my verdict for Resident Evil Requiem on the Switch 2 is a must buy, even if you have to pay the full $70 price tag. It is worth the money. It is worth your time. You can play it at home, dock to your TV or monitor, or you can take it on the go. It's a must buy for any fan of survival horror games, zombie games, or Resident Evil. And that is my verdict. So that is my review of Resident Evil Requiem. I know I've been gone for a while and I'm trying to maybe come back, but leave a like on this video if you enjoyed my review. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm Anthony Olan, and I'll see you guys next time.